Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15. If you have your Bibles, please turn to Luke chapter 15. If you do not have a Bible and you need one, please go back to our SOJO store. We would love to give you a Bible. If you have a digital Bible, Luke chapter 15 in that as well. We're going to be reading verses 25 through 30, so just 5 verses. If you're new with us, please know that we've been traveling through the book of Luke for the last 9 months. And so we're not picking some passage. This is like us traveling through a book of the Bible together. So Luke chapter 15, and I got to read the context of the first verse to help you understand why Jesus tells these stories, because he tells 3 stories of lost things. He talks about a lost sheep, he talks about a lost coin, he talks about a lost son. But he reads this verse, this verse is written about him in Luke chapter 15, verse 1. It says, and all the tax collectors and sinners, like the outcast. All the outcasts were approaching to listen to Jesus. So all the people that looked like they didn't belong came to gather around Jesus. And then all the Pharisees and the scribes were complaining. And so you got 2 groups of people. You got the lost and you got the found. You got the lost and you got the found. And the lost love to listen, but the found love to criticize. There's something there. The lost love to listen, but the found love to criticize. It said, and all the Pharisees and the scribes, they were complaining that this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. How dare you, God, love the outcast? That doesn't sound like the heart of the Father, does it? And so as we dig into this passage, that's the heart of why Jesus tells these stories. He's really addressing a religious crowd that doesn't have the heart of the Father. And the reason why I bring this up is because today we're going to talk about bitterness, we're going to talk about resentment, and we're going to talk about the heart of our Father. Bitterness, resentment, and the heart of our Father. Bitterness and resentment and the heart of the Father. And the reason why bitterness and resentment, because it's part of the human condition to be broken, or it's to be hurt because you have an expectation and then that expectation doesn't get met. The danger is when the expectation doesn't get met and you allow yourself to get bitter. I want to tell you guys a story of something that happened to me and my family in 2020, not just COVID, but although that was a fantastic adventure, amen. I was approached by the Baptist State Convention of North Carolina, and I was approached back in 2019, right when we started SOJO, to take a full-time position as a church planting catalyst. And those of you guys who know me, know that I live, I die, I bleed church planting. I believe in church planting more than anything in the world. The reason why I believe it so much is because it's the most effective form to see lost people saved. And we prove it. 120 people get baptized with us as a church and still being 6 years old. So I love it. And I've been working for this place for the last 5 years as a contractor, and they were willing to put me on the payroll. And they were willing to give 15% into my 401k. I didn't even know what 401k was before then. So I was excited about this proposition. Not only was I excited about this proposition, but my wife was really excited about the proposition, because then she'd have to be a preacher's wife no more, because being a preacher's wife ain't easy. Matter of fact, y'all guys love me so much, I would ask you to love my wife more. She needs attention, she needs love, she needs gifts, she needs all those things, because married to me, number one, ain't easy, and then being married to me and sharing me with all 600 of you isn't easy either. And so it came time for that job, and as I went to the job, because I had been promised a job, I had sat across the table from many people that said I had the job, and then I sat across from one table, and a man looked at me and said, I'm sorry, Corey, you can't have the job because we don't feel like you have recovered from your father's death. And those of you guys who don't know, my father killed himself in 2010. This was 2020. It had been a decade. Obviously, that's going to wreck somebody. That's going to mess with somebody. But surely there's something going on more than meets the eye there. And so I say that story because, bitterness set into me, because I had given a lot to this organization. I was looking forward to this. And then they hired somebody else. And quite honestly, I didn't feel like that person had the qualities that I had. And the reason why I say that is because all of you have been put in a situation where you feel like you are owed something by someone. And a lot of times we feel like we've been owed by God. And when God doesn't come through, when we feel like he owes us something, we turn bitter. And that's the heart of this story. Last week we looked at the younger brother, or 2 weeks ago we looked at the younger brother. And the series we're in is called Rock Bottom. And this younger brother was at rock bottom because he was in the pig pen of shame and desperation. He literally was sleeping in pig slop. And this week, we're going to look at the other story and the character in the story. And it's the older brother, and he's also caught in a pig pen, but his pig pen is of pride and resentment. This is a big thing in our culture, pride and resentment. And the bottom line, the thing that I want to dig into more than anything is that without intimacy, we lose our identity. Without intimacy, we lose our identity. Without intimacy. Now, women, I think y'all get intimacy because y'all understand relationship and you understand proximity, and like to be in a relationship with someone is to be intimate with somebody. Guys, we think intimacy, we think Marvin Gaye, let's get it on. But here's the point. Without intimacy, both of these brothers lose their identity. And a lot of believers don't have an identity that's rooted in Christ. We have an identity that's rooted in a cell phone. Whatever social media platform of your choice, you are modeling yourself in the wrong image. You're allowing yourself to be molded and shaped and formed by the identity of culture and not of your Creator. And today, we've got to identify this because both brothers are as lost as the other. There's no better brother, even though one brother looks better on the outside. Just because you look better on the outside doesn't mean that you're better on the inside. As far as I know, Jesus said it doesn't matter what enters into your body, it's what comes out of your body that matters. And so we're going to look at verse 25. And so verse 25 goes in, it says, meanwhile. So meanwhile, we've got to understand the idea of a story. We watch television shows, we watch movies, and we follow a concept, we follow a character, and then that character, it leaves us with a plot hole. And then it switches to another character, and that's exactly what's happening. We see that the younger son comes home, and his father fixes him a feast, and he puts his identity back in place. He gives him a ring, he gives him a robe, and he puts sandals on the feet. It's about identity. The father reinstates his identity. The father reinstates his identity because the identity is rooted in his son being with the father. And the same thing, we see this. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. What's he doing in the field? Well, the father is a farmer. And the farmer isn't a banker's job. A banker's job works 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they have Mondays off on days like Martin Luther King holiday. If you're a farmer, there is no days off. And it's not 9 to 5, it's sun up to sundown. And I want you to think about this, that both brothers worked in the field, but one brother left. And so if one brother left, then another brother had to pick up the slack. And I want you to imagine yourself, you're the one who has to go out into the field every single day while you know that your brother has been given millions of dollars and he's squandering it on drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Every day you go out to the field. Every day your alarm clock hits at 4:34 like Zach Bryan says. 4:34, your alarm goes off. 5 o'clock, you're in the field. 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. every single day, you're in the field. Every single day, you're in the field, slaving away for your father while your brother is out there having a good old time. Are you happy for your brother? Are you resentful of your brother? Are you bitter at your brother? And if you're not saying yes, then you are lying. Meanwhile, the older brother's in the field. When he came near the house, he heard Pink Pony Club by Shapakara, whatever her name is, Pink Pony Club. Sorry, I had to do it. I don't know that song. I don't know what it means. I don't care. I just know it's really popular. And this is what happens when we hear music. Y'all saw how I danced just a second ago. That's about as good as it gets. But I want you to imagine the brother's coming home. It's Friday. He's been working hard all week. And he hears some music, he's like, okay, yeah. He's excited. He hears music. He hears dancing. I want to identify the brother on the outside. He looks good, he's faithful, he's hardworking, every kind of son a parent would want. Are my kids in here? Noel and Eden? Where they at? I know they always in the back. I got kids. I saw them. Somewhere. Second service. All right. Well, I talked about them in second. I'll talk about them in third. That's why you have kids as a preacher, so that you can talk about them. I have an older sister. Her name's Heather. I can assure you, is my mama in this room? Right here. My mama loved my sister more than she loved me. She did. I know my daddy loved my sister more than me. I know, because she was the responsible one. She worked at McDonald's and said that she was going to drive a Lamborghini. She got it, actually. She still works at McDonald's and makes probably 5 times as much as anybody in here. She's banking it. I swear my mom and dad loved her more, and I promise you that she would look at mom and dad and say, well, that's the snotty-nosed younger brother who like always getting on my nerves and never gets in trouble. He's the one who's the drug addict, does this, does that. And she would say the same thing, that my mama loves me, then she loves her. Something about parents and siblings, sibling rivalry, where we desire the love, we want the approval. And that's the situation that we find ourselves in. Here's the idea that I want to give away. Proximity to somebody does not mean intimacy. And you're like, what do I mean? Talk to any person that's been married more than 5 years. Ask them if proximity equals intimacy. You sleep together every single night, but you probably sleep back to back. Just because you're close to somebody doesn't mean you're intimate with them. Especially if you define intimacy the way that a guy defines intimacy and a gal defines intimacy. Because I promise you, if I isolated 100 men and I asked them, what does intimacy mean? They're going to say, somebody said it, I ain't going to say it. And if you ask a woman, depending on what her love language is, if it's quality time, if it's words of affirmation, if it's physical touch, like she's going to define intimacy way different than a man defines intimacy. So therefore, I need you to understand, just because you're close to somebody does not mean that you're actually intimate with them. What I need you to see is that the older son may be near the house, but he's far from the father's heart. And that is the sin. The sin is, do I really know the heart of my father? In church, in marriage, you can serve your spouse, you can serve the church, but that doesn't mean it's reciprocated. You can give to the church, you can give to your spouse, but it doesn't mean it's going to be reciprocated. You can do all the things and still miss the Father himself. Verse 26 says, so he called one of his servants and asked him what was going on. Let me ask you a question. If you're the brother coming home from the field, you see the party, you see your father, why would you call the servant and not walk up to the father? Why would you call the servant over and ask him for what's going on instead of going straight to the source? I really want you to think about this idea, because I think more than us that are willing to really talk about are so guilty of this truth. Raise your hand if you have problems. Now raise your hand if you're lying that you don't have problems. There's always one, Quentin. Always one. Always one. I want you to think about this. How many of us are going to secondary sources with our problems when there is a primary source that's the creator and knows the heart of the problem? Yesterday, I'm talking to my friend Todd Wilson. As I'm talking to Todd, I told him this. I said, Todd, I've been running from you. He was like, what are you talking about? Todd's a father in my life. And as I'm talking to him, I said, I saw that you saw something in me and I wasn't ready for it, so I've been running from you. I've been running from you. You see, the problem is, for most of us, the Father sees something in us. And we're scared of the original version of ourselves. And so, because we're afraid of the original version that we're made to be, we run to secondary sources instead of allowing the Father to be the one to minister to us in vulnerable times. And how do I know that? Because I can look at your phone. I'm like, what do you mean? You got one, don't you? Anybody not have one of these things under the ages of 10? Over the ages of 10, sorry. And like, if I go to my phone, I've got this thing called screen time. And it tells me how much time I spend on Netflix, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. And I just want you to do a soul search today. I want you to go back. Last week, I asked every single one of you guys who go to this church to go to Psalm 1 every single day. I hope you did it. If you didn't do it this week. Even if you did it, I guarantee you that the time that you spent on your phone versus the time that you spent with the Lord is probably 100x. 100x. If I spend 100 more times on this device than I do with my Father, who am I going to end up looking like? Whatever I'm watching. That's forming me. What if you have more intimacy with this device than you do with your spouse, your children, your God? Y'all sad y'all came already? It's true. It's true. Last week I sang a song. I'll sing it for you again. We got dust on our Bibles, brand new iPhones. I wonder why we feel this way. We walk with our eyes closed, blind leading blind folks. I wonder why I feel this way. We're a world riddled with anxiety and depression and loneliness. Yet we're more connected to humanity than we ever been, but we don't know how to talk to one another. We're being formed into the image of whatever we watch on this device. We're being formed to the image of whatever we watch on this device. And I'm not saying that this device is evil. Don't hear me say that, because it's only evil in the hands of the user. The device is neutral. It's like the argument of guns in our nation right now. One side says this and another side says that. The gun is not anything but an inanimate object. It's only evil in the hands of the user. As we go to this passage, we see that he calls a secondary source, and that's what I'm trying to point to, that this is a created object that you can use for God's glory or you can use for your own glory. And one's going to leave you hollow and empty, and many of us are hollow and empty, and it's because we're staring down a rabbit hole, or our kids affectionately know a doom scroll. He looks in verse 27 and says, your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. Instead of running towards the music, this brother stands outside and asks a slave what's happening. That's what I'm trying to point you to. When you try to take your cues from this phone, you're a slave. You're in bondage. You're in chains. I'm in chains. We're all in chains. And listen, I'm not here to make you feel guilty. If you feel guilty, that's not my aim. My aim is just to be able to point truth. Don't feel guilty. Guilt is the enemy's device. Condemnation is the enemy's device. Instead, accept the truth and analyze it and ask yourself, what is God trying to say to me? You try to fix a behavior just because you realize that there's something going on. That means you haven't discovered the root of the behavior. The reason why you go to this vice is what's important, not that you go to it. What's going on inside the heart? What's going on inside the heart? This man, inside his heart, there's anger and there's rage. He knows about the party, but he's not sharing in the joy. And here's what I'm trying to say. Joy is a diagnosis of the soul. I remember walking into a doctor's office about 6 months ago to get blood drawn. As I'm sitting there getting blood drawn, I sit across from this crazy, crazy woman. I mean, like, she is crazy, crazy, crazy woman. And she's sitting on the front row right now. I sat in there, and she was, I know you. And we ended up going to church before, years ago, a church I had planted called Mission 217, and I could see that the joy was gone. And I'm so glad that Kathy's on the front row this morning. Can we get up for Kathy this morning? Yeah. Joy is a diagnosis of the soul. Joy is a diagnosis of the soul. I want you to think about this. If your brother was dead and he came back alive, you should be happy, right? How many times have you walked up to a friend and you wanted to share something good in your life? And you share the good thing with your friend, and then they automatically dismiss you. Have you ever had that happen? That's probably one of the suckiest feelings on planet Earth. Because there's somebody that you think you can trust, somebody who you think loves you, and you try to share vulnerable spaces of your heart and your life, and they automatically shut you down. That's what's going on inside of this man. You see, the older son could not celebrate even though his brother had been restored. And the reason why he couldn't celebrate is because he had intrinsically taken the resentment and the bitterness, and it was in his heart, it was in his mind, it was in his soul. It's a bitter root. And I just need to say this out loud, that if there's any human soul in here that's living with a bitter root, you need to allow the Lord to cut you deep, deep. Because if the Lord has the grace in your life to cut you deep, it means that he's trying to get the poison out of your blood. Bitterness is a poison to the soul. Bitterness is a cancer. It is the most malignant cancer to the human spirit that is alive. If you're bitter in marriage, you need to go to the Lord. If you're bitter at your job, if you're bitter with your relationship with the Father, today, bitterness has no place with God's people. Because God's people should be joyful. Now hear me. I'm not saying that God's people should be happy. Because life sucks sometimes. And I think that life is supposed to suck sometimes. I think that suffering is there on purpose to identify what God I serve. Because it's in the suffering that I reveal my heart. But because in my suffering, if I go to outside secondary sources, then I show the God that I worship. Verse 28 says the older brother became angry and refused to go in. Think about that. He was rightfully angry. Most everybody would say he had a right to be angry. The question is, if he knew the heart of the Father, does he have a right to be angry? And the answer is no. If he's in intimate relationship with the Father, then he knows the heart of the Father. He knows his heart. And then it says the father went out and pleaded with him. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. His rock bottom was not pig slop, it's pride slop. The slop of his own pride. It's this. You can come to me. I'm not going to you. And if you say you've never done this, then you're lying in the house of God. But what does the Father do? Think about this. The Father's the one who put the robe. The Father's the one who put the ring. The Father's the one who bought the land. The Father is the one who did all this. I want you to think about this. How many of you are parents? Raise your hand if you are a parent. Do you have to explain yourself to your 7-year-old? If your 7-year-old and says, why did you pay $1,000 for the mortgage? Should you have to explain yourself to the 7-year-old? Who are you to God? The 7-year-old. Who am I to God? I am the 6-year-old. You're ahead of me. Think about that. The older brother became angry at his father, refused to go in, but the father went out and pleaded with him. We see with one brother, he ran to his son. One of our senior saints walked up to me and says, I know why the father ran. You see, at the gate of every city was judgment. It's where the old men gathered together and gossiped. If your men ever say, y'all gossip all the time, just point to them. Y'all gossip too. We gossip too. Come on, be honest, men. We gossip too. We get around our boys, we talk, we do all that stuff. At the front gate of the city is where the men would pronounce judgment on the people who walked through the gates. Why did the father run? The father ran to his son so that he could walk through the gate with his son to protect him from the judgment. And here we see that the father goes out and pleads with his son. Verse 29. And I want you to imagine this. The father walks up to his son and he puts his arm around him and pleads, please come in to the party, son. Please come into the party. And I want you to picture this because this is where it bleeds out. This is where the son explodes. And he says, and he answered his father, Dad, all of these years I have served you faithfully. There has been not one day, Dad, that I have not gone out into the field. Every day, Dad, every day since he left, every morning at 4:34, I wake up and I take my happy tail into that field and I don't complain. Every day, Dad, I have been the good son, and you have the audacity. You have the audacity to look at me and tell me to come in after you have done what you've done for that man who stole millions of your dollars. Millions of dollars, Dad. Millions of dollars. And you have the audacity to give him this party? Screw you, Dad. All these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. You never gave me even a young goat. Contextually, I know that doesn't make sense to us. But this is where the son reveals his heart. You never even gave me a goat so that I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who squandered your property with prostitutes come home, you kill the calf? Ask yourself the question. Did the son ever go to the father and even ask? Because I guarantee you, if the son would have went to the father and said, Dad, I want to go have a party with my friends. Can I take one of the goats? The dad would have said, whatever I have, that son. Whatever I have, it's yours. And here the son is looking at his dad and screaming at him and yelling because the father never gave him the goat. As our kids would say, he was not goated. Thanks, chat. I promise you, if the son would have walked to the father and been in a relationship with his dad would have honestly given him whatever he asked for. But here is what I want you to see. The son did not want the father. The son wanted his stuff. The son did not want the father. The son wanted his stuff. Have you ever felt used before by someone? Have you ever felt like somebody was only around you because of the stuff that you have? I got to be honest with you, that's me. I'm the older son. I have always been the older son. I have always wanted the gifts and the glory from God and not God himself. I have been so guilty of this, so guilty of looking at God and saying, I deserve you to bless me because look at all that I've done for you. The son wants the gift. And you got to ask yourself, is the gift that the Father wants to give you just a goat? Is that all you want? It seems so trivial. It seems so small. And what's the glory that he's after? He wants recognition from his friends. He wants his friends to look at him and say, oh my gosh, look at all you have. What is he really looking for? He's looking for an identity rooted in the acceptance of those who do not matter. And how many of us want approval of the people that we say day in and day out, and we do not give one thought about whether our Father approves of us? Whether our Father looks at us and says, I am so proud of my son and my daughter. You see, the older brother does not want intimacy with his father. He wants the approval of others. And the reason why I say this, and this may not seem like one of those magic lines, but this is the biggest line I think you'll ever hear in Christianity. If Jesus is not your prize, you will never have enough. If what you want is Jesus' stuff, you will never have enough. What we need to desire is not what Jesus has for us. What we need to desire is the relationship with Jesus by itself. I am here to tell you that the relationship with my Savior, the relationship with my Father, the relationship with the Paraclesis, the Advocate, the Holy Spirit that lives inside of me, the ability to go to Him and think and pray and dream and love is so much more glorious than any of the stuff that He's giving me. If Jesus is not the prize, you will not be in heaven. Because you won't enjoy it. Two things I want you to take away as I close. The first thing is called the bitter root. The bitter root. What's a root? It's the beginning, right? The root is the beginning. It's the thing that's under the surface. And if your root is bitter, then your tree is bitter. And if your tree is bitter, nobody wants to be around you. And if nobody wants to be around you, you become more bitter. It's a cycle. And I'm here to say that bitterness is the older brother's rock bottom. And the best illustration that I can give you, and maybe since we live in the South, you might understand this, but there is this invasive plant species called kudzu. Kudzu. Kudzu was given to us in the 1800s for shade and erosion control, but it is an invasive species. Whatever it grows, it covers and kills. It spreads, it smothers, it chokes the life out of every tree and every fence that it surrounds. In the summertime, one single vine of kudzu can grow a foot a day. I'm here to tell you that bitterness is the kudzu of our souls. Bitterness is an invasive species that grows faster than we can ever think, ask, or imagine. It looks green on the outside, just like you guys look pretty in here today, but it will cover our lives and choke us out. And that's what happened to this brother. On the outside, he was good. On the outside, he was a hard worker. Everybody was said, oh, clap. Older brother. Younger brother, you suck. Older brother, you're awesome. But on the inside, this man was enslaved by his bitterness. Think about that phrase, enslaved. We have images in our world today about slavery. We live in a nation of slavery. Just the other day, I saw the image of the black man that changed the landscape of America. He was literally whipped and had scars all over his back, chains around his wrist, sold as property, 3/5 of a human being. And I'm here to tell you that when we do not primarily make our relationship with God the giver, and we want his stuff, we are enslaving ourselves to sin and death and bitterness. We are chained, we are in bondage, and it's time to be set free. And this leads me to the heart of our Father. You see, this story really has nothing to do with the son who was lost because he left or the son who was lost because he stayed. This story has everything to do with the heart of the Father. Because the Father goes out to both of these men, not because he wants them to perform and dance for them, but because he simply wants to be around his children. That's what the Father wants. And without intimacy with our Father, we have lost our identity. If we are not intimate with the Father, if we're not sitting at his table, we have lost our identity. If you think to yourself, I don't know who I am, I'm talking to you. Or if you're trying to pretend to be something that you're not, I'm talking to you. And I guarantee you that's 95% of the audience today. We're looking for who we are. And God is literally saying, sit at the table. I'll tell you. I'll speak life over you. I just want to enjoy a meal with you. That's all I want. Listen to the invitation. This is the close of the story. My son, the Father says, you are always with me. He's saying, I've been right here the whole time. You never left. I've been here, and you've been carrying this hurt. You've been carrying this pain. You've been carrying this bitterness, and you never one time came to me and said, oh, Dad, I'm struggling. Not once. You're always with me. And look at this phrase, everything I have is yours. Son, if you would have asked me for a goat, I would have given you 12. Everything I have is yours. I built it for you. Everything on this property, everything on this earth, I literally formed and fashioned for you. And that is the truth. That is not just some story on a page. In the book of Genesis, we literally see that God created the earth for you. He literally gave us this earth for us. Everything in this earth and everything evil in this earth is because we have subverted it. The tragedy of this story is not that one son ran and the other son grew bitter. The tragedy would be us today missing the Father when the table of God is set right in front of us. I need you to see that today the Father is still inviting every human heart to sit at his table. Today, if you've run away from him, come home. If you stay close, you've come, you've served, you've given, but you're bitter, come home. Don't settle for goats when the Father has a banquet table. Don't chase gifts or glory and miss the giver. Picture the Father walking out, arms open, saying, everything I have, son, everything I have, daughter, is yours. You are always with me. Come home, come in. Today, I'm asked Landis to sing a song over you. God has been wrecking my heart. And I'm so thankful because I have been a man chasing after becoming something instead of realizing who I am. I am a son. I'm a son of the King. And he's made me to be a priest. And you are too. The Bible calls you an everyday priesthood. You are sons and we are daughters. We are his children. And God has been wrecking me about this idea of the table. This beautiful table, this beautiful imagery of all of these names and these plates and these glasses and these goblets. It pictures something that we all do every single day. We all eat. But here's what I need you to see. You are meant to eat with the Father. This Friday night, you start here. Part of the reason why, I wouldn't even say part of it, the whole reason why we're going back to 2 services is to stop trying to be like everybody else and let's be SOJO. Let's be SOJO. Let's be the church of the island of misfit toys. I don't want to be like Elevation. I don't want to be like this other church. I want to be us. I don't want to feel like we got to do tactics and things. I just want to be the church. I want to preach the Bible. I want to love people, and I want to see people grow. And I want to see lost people found and found people find others. I want to see every human heart and every human soul in this place come alive. And here's what I know, is that doesn't happen unless you're around tables. There's a table of your own heart. There's a table of your family. There's a table of the place that you work, the place that you play. There's a table of your church. There's all these tables, all these places that you're invited to sit. And sometimes you're a father, and sometimes you're a mother, but sometimes you're a son, and sometimes you're a daughter, and sometimes you're a brother. It depends on what table you're sitting at what place. But this Friday night, usually on Discover Days, I have a 45 slide deck where we sit there and we talk about this is SOJO, and this is SOJO, and this is SOJO, and this is SOJO. This night, we set up a table and we let people tell their story, and I said, that's SOJO. Our staff texted over and over like that was the best Discover we've been at 6, 7 months, 8 months, maybe a year. And it was just beautiful. It was simple. And then Pastor Dan looked at text and he said, God's up to something with this idea of the table. And so Friday night, 10:30 at night, literally, we write this song that we're about to sing over you today. This song is meant to minister to your heart. This song is meant for you to long for something beautiful, something original, something that you know is true, but you don't know how to get there. So I've asked Landis to sing this song that we wrote over you today.